This video is for 11Y2 and it's following on from the last lesson on forming and solving equations. So I hope you're all listening carefully. Everyone make sure Lewis is listening. Yeah, you're listening? Good lad. Right, okay, here we go. So the learning objective is for us to be able to form, and that's the important bit, form an equation. That's a really important bit there. That's the whole point of this. And solve it. Now today we're going to do a variety of problems, but we're going to particularly focus on shapes involving angles. Okay, so let's have a look at some problems. So first of all, we're going to look at one that was very similar to the question you did yesterday, just to remind you. Now, really important that you paid close attention to keywords. This question's about perimeter. As I spoke to someone yesterday, I forget who it was, we spoke about area. Now, if you have an area problem, the same maths can be used, but it's a bit more complicated, so be very careful. So the perimeter of the rectangle is the same as the perimeter of the triangle. So very simple, I'm going to work out the perimeter of the rectangle. Now, it's going to be helpful if I write down that that's 2x, because they're the same size, and there's x add 5. And so the perimeter is 2x, 4x, 5, 6x, and then we've got a 5 and another 5, which makes positive 10. Over here, the perimeter of the triangle, we've got x and 3x, which makes 4x, and another 4x, which makes 8x. Then we've got 7 and 3, which make 10. Take away 5 leaves us with a positive 5. Now, the perimeter of the rectangle, here's the perimeter of the rectangle, is the same as, and I really want to point attention to this, the same, where they use the word same, that's the key for writing the equal sign, and it's the same as the perimeter of the triangle. Here we are, 8x plus 5. Now if you can solve these, good. If you can't solve this sort of equation, you definitely need to work on that. Very straightforward. You look for the smallest number of x's, which in this case is the 6x, because that's smaller than the 8x. And this is a positive 6x, so we're going to subtract it. Now, don't forget to do it to both sides, so it's going to leave us with a positive 10 on this side. Because if we take away 6x from 6x, we're left with the 10. And on this side, we did have 8x, now we've got 2x plus 5. Now, once you've got to this step, a lot of people can do these in their heads. I'm going to carry on using my little method. I'm going to subtract 5, because there's a plus 5 there. So that's going to leave me with 5 on this side and 2x on this side. I'm going to finish off by dividing by 2, which means that x is 2.5, 2.5. And feel free, when you get to this stage, to use whatever method you like, whether it's doing it in your head or a flowchart, but this is how I chose to do it. So that's what you did yesterday. Some of you will be finishing that off now, I expect. Now we're going to go and have a look at some different problems, starting with this one here. Now, this problem, work out the value of x, is very similar to the other problems, except that hopefully you can see this is about angles. Okay, so the key word here really would be angles. So it's not perimeter, there we are. Okay, the question is not about lengths. So in order to solve this problem, we need to know something about the angles of this shape. And very simple, it's a pentagon. Now, if you don't know this already, this is something which we will look at in future in more detail, but it's very simple. A triangle, 3 sides, has got 180 degrees. 4 sides is 360, and if you notice, it's going up by 180. 5 sides is going up by another 180, so we've got 540. Now, it's not written down in the question. That's because it's one of the things you're expected to have learned by the end of year 11, that the angle properties of different polygons, different shapes. So this is a 5-sided shape, and the angles add up to 540. Hopefully some of you can see how to do this now. So we know what the angles add up to. Okay, the angles add up to 540. Well, here we go. Let's add up the angles. I'll give myself a bit of room. So first of all, my x's. X and 2x makes 3x, and another 3x makes 6x. Okay. 70 and 110 makes 180. 180 minus this 80 gets me back to 100. Minus 100 gets me to 0. And then we've got the minus 60. So it's 6x minus 60 equals 540. Happy with that? So I've added my angles up there, and I know they add up to 540 because that's something special about a pentagon. And then you can solve this how you like. You could use a flowchart. I might do that this time. So you start with the x. You multiply it by the 6, you subtract the 60, and you get 540. And now to do it backwards to get my answer, add on the 60, that gets me to 600, divide it by 6, and that means x is 100. And there's the answer, 100. Now, bearing in mind this hasn't asked me the sizes of the angles, it's just asked me to work out x. If you've got any questions, it'd be a good time to stop and have a discussion on that now. Okay, I'm going to do one more example, which is this one here. Now, again, it's another work out the value of x, and again, it's about angles. So it's not a perimeter one, it's an angles problem. Now, there are a couple of things you might know about the angles of this shape. It's a parallelogram, which means it's got 4 sides. So 4 sides, that means the angles add up to 360. So you could use that fact. You could add up all the angles and they come to 360. Or you could use another fact, because it's a parallelogram. You could use the fact that opposite angles are equal. There we go. It might be a good idea to try it both ways and see if you get the same answer. I'm going to use the bottom one. Opposite angles are equal. Now, these two angles are obviously equal. And because they're obviously equal, and they have the same algebraic expression, there's not going to be anything I can solve out of that. It's the other two that are interesting because they're equal but different. And I don't know if you remember, but I said yesterday that forming equations, you're looking for different ways of saying the same thing. So, 2x add 6, as this one, is the same as 3x minus 44. It has to be the same because otherwise it wouldn't be a parallelogram. And now I'm going to solve it. So I'm going to start by looking for the smallest number of x's. There we are, and it's a normal 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x. And my board's not going to let me write there. There we go, let's do it there. This is a bit annoying, isn't it? Minus 2x's, there we go. Okay, so that's going to be leaving me with the normal positive 6, and over here I'm going to have a single x minus a 44. And you should hopefully be able to do that in your head. 6 equals something minus 44, well that something has got to be 50, hasn't it? And there's my answer. Now, obviously you could do it the other way. Probably going to be a little bit more work, because you've got to add up all the angles, but that's the basic idea. Your cover teacher hopefully is now going to give you some work to do on this. Just to remember that the important bit of this whole exercise, if I can get back to my start there, is forming the equation. Okay, I'm not really interested at the moment to know if you can work it out by just trying different numbers and figuring it out. I'm sure that lots of you can do that. That's a good skill to have, but we're trying to help you use your algebra. So form an equation and then solve it. Good luck.